Well, here with us is Aemana Ra, and she's here to tell us about her life. And she's been exploring pyramids in South America and is a UFO enthusiast. So, yeah,
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here, Dustin and Daniel. It's great to be here with you. It's amazing when like-minded and mostly like frequency people get together, then we can do some magic and miracles, and that is what I'm all about. And exactly, I have a love, an affinity for everything that is the Mayan temples, Aztec temples, all the temples in Peru, pyramids, and so. And life has taken me on that path, apart from many other paths. And it's an important part of my life. And I will tell a little bit about who I am and where I come from. So my person, as a person, I was born in Belgium, and from the moment that I had like a sense of where am I really thought to myself, where on earth, literally, where on earth am I? Where did I land? Right? Like, okay, this doesn't feel right, and this doesn't feel right, and that is totally off, and that is even more off. And obviously, you get into the program of the matrix, and as we're bombarded with all that information, we don't know it as a child, but we sense it. We as star seeds, we do sense that this is not right. There is something wrong. And as a kid, I was riding horses. I always loved horses, and I felt like I was a Native American Indian with my pony, and I put these beautiful uh, Indian style things on my horse, and we were just cantering on the beach, feeling so free in the Great Plains, right? So I've always had an affinity for the American continent. Now I didn't get there until for the first time I got to Peru in the year 2000, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the year 2000. And for me, it was really like coming home because I really felt like I'm going back to my people. I'm going back home. I'll be again with my people. And I arrived, and even the smell of when I got off the plane was, okay, I'm home. This is my continent. This is my place. Now, obviously, people didn't recognize me. People didn't know who I was. People did steal my clothes, people did take money. And I was so in a disillusion because there is a part of me that says, I'm going back home and I'll be with my people and with the pyramids and with the Machu Picchu and the temples and this and that. And then the reality of this game of life, I call it games of life, our lives, was okay, this is not aligned, right? Anyway, I just I kept on studying in Belgium. I'm actually a doctor in veterinary medicine, and I've always been uh, drawn to the more respectful, the natural, the holistic medicine. And obviously, I was in the fifth year of university, and I was like, okay, something is wrong here. This is not the medicine I know about. You know, being connected, but also not connected enough to get it, that we are star seeds and that we have the information and that we come here to install the new information or the galactic information here on Earth. And so you come in and you're like, okay, something is off, but you can't really pinpoint. So that was what happened with me. Anyway, I got into acupuncture, I got into chiropractic, I got into um, interspecies communication all through the animals, absolutely amazing stuff. And so I started working a lot with the spine, and I've been teaching since 15 years now to doctors, veterinarians, chiropractors about the spine, about natural medicine, about healing techniques, quantum medicine, etc. So I have it all in my body. Now, there was still more. So I remember when I must have been 9 years old or so, in history class in Belgium with my blue and white uniform on, bored, like crazy, right? Sitting there in the corner, like, okay, what are they going to talk about now again? The history makes no sense, you know? When you then start again, there was that information like, this doesn't make sense. This history doesn't make sense. So why are they telling us that, you know? Like something's off. But anyway, when they started talking about Machu Picchu and mostly when they started talking about the Chichen Itza and the Mayan temples, I was 9 years and wow, my heart just bursted open. I was like, my home, right? It just again so felt like home, just like when I went to Peru, etc. Anyway, for my work, I started teaching all over the world and also Argentina. Um, I started off in Argentina and then Mexico. And I was in Mexico October 2012. And I was teaching in Mexico City, my students, my vets and chiropractors and doctors and so. And I said, I'm never ever coming back to Mexico because it's so dense here. Mexico City is an amazing city, but it has a lot of density. So I said, I'm not coming back here. You know what I'll do? I'll just go a week to Tulum, and there I'll just have an amazing time. In that time, I was like off site doing tantric courses. I was trained in tantra, and I started doing tantric courses. So I was like, okay, let's just combine that. Anyway, that week in Tulum was the most amazing week ever. There was a merging of so many timelines. There was the timeline of like 2012 timeline, but then there was the 3000 before Christ timeline, because that was when the 5200 timeline started. Because if you look at the Mayan astronomy, they are the best astronomers in the world, right? I mean, or whatever we can say, the world or the planet or the universe. Anyway, they had and still have in their dimension where they're at now, they have all the information. So when I was there in October, there were so many timelines that were merging. And I really was in a moment like, where am I? Who am I? What year are we in? Where did I land? What's going on? It really was like that. And it was the first time that I felt it so strongly. I had been at the Mayan temples in Tulum, etc. And I really felt this is beyond just normal human experience. So I said, I must follow the thread. And I followed the thread. And then I ended up with like 200 shamans from all over the world doing a pilgrimage in Guatemala for the 21st of December of 2012. And so nothing was planned by my person, yet everything was planned from a higher purpose. And actually, I have written a book around all that, and it's called Tulum, the Heartbeat of the Anahuac, because the spiritual name or the ancestral name, but for me, an ancestral name doesn't mean ancestral in time, yet it's on another plane, in another plane of existence. So the other ancestral name of the continent here, of the American continent, is the Anahuac. Okay, you can also say Turtle Island, but when you look at the Nahuatl language, that was the language of the Aztecs, there's still like even the word Seattle, where in the States, so north up in the States, that is still a Nahuatl word because it's Seattle. Like for instance, when we think about the big avatar that we had here, that was Quetzalcoatl, his name was Seacatl, Topilzin Quetzalcoatl. So everything ends in tl, like that. So every word, chocolatl, aguacatl, all these words, Seattle, all these words still come from the Nahuatl, from Nahuatl. So it used to be a continent that was totally, there was there was an equilibrium, there was peace, and it all started. For me, there is a very big starting point here. And actually, where I live, you guys just saw where I live. This is the place where the meteorite, so many million years ago, landed, on the shore, and that was when the time of the dinosaurs was over. So everything there happened with that huge meteorite. Now there are people who say, and then again, why not? There are people who say that it was a meteorite that came down. It was a spaceship that landed kind of wrongly. And then the crew of the spaceship landed here and then set up the whole culture. And so that was how the culture was brought from the future here. So that is how the Mayans received their information. But then again, that is speculation. That can be like that. That cannot be like that. Now, I do have to say, I am a person who receives information from above. I have like my straight line, and everything that comes in through books or through other information comes in after, when I have received the information, when it clicked in, and then I receive a confirmation. So I had not really, except from what I had learned when I was 9 years old about Chichen Itza and the Mayan temples, and so I didn't really know that much about them. Yet when I was in Guatemala and Mexico in December 2012, then so much information came up. Like, for instance, that the Tikal temple in Guatemala is certainly a stairway to heaven, and all the temples are stairways to heaven. What do we mean with that? Is that the temples are they have a sacred construction, they have their sacred geometry as a construction, and these temples are put on special places, on grid lines that are important for Earth, because it's all about coordinates. So it's all about numbers and codes. When we work on higher planes, when we work from the ships, when we work from other planets, it's not that we say, okay, we're going to put it there in Yucatan, for instance, or we're going to put it just in that little town. It has nothing to do with that. It's about where these are the coordinates on the planet Earth, that when we put it there, and then at a certain coordinate of time with the certain coordinate of space, then we have a straight portal opening to certain grids from the universe, from the galaxy, from the cosmos. And so that is such an important part when you, for instance, look at Chichen Itza. I was there 3 weeks ago, and we could see how the snake came down. And I've been there now. I live here now for 10 years, and I'm going to tell that story also a little bit more than.
Yeah.
So as I said, I was in Mexico teaching in Mexico City. I said, it's the last time that I come here. I never ever come here anymore. And then boom, I went to Tulum, and all these timelines just totally shifted, and I was catapulted to another life. And it still was very difficult to leave behind. And then I did, actually. In April of 2013, I had an amazing life built up in Argentina, and I had my horse there, and I was living in a polo field, and absolutely stunning, and I had it done. And what I did, the 3rd of April of 2013, and also I've been used to doing that, because from Belgium I went to live in Spain 8 years, and then from Spain I went to live in Argentina, and then from Argentina to Mexico. So after doing all these trips to Mexico, to the Mayan lands, I just took 2 suitcases and my cat, and we just came here. We just came to Tulum. We came to Mexico, to the Mayan lands, because I was so pushed here. So, and then I started going I was so drawn to it. I was so drawn to all the pyramids. So I just started, because there's so many around here, I just started visiting them. And without really knowing, like not having read or heard somebody say, but just from that inner knowing of also having seen what the ceremonies were about in our Mayan pilgrimage, just doing the work, just going to these places, and by acknowledging the place, that is a sacred place, that is a sacred coordinate in space for time and space to coincide there with other frequencies. So by being there, by honoring the place, by doing meditation, by just sitting in presence and emanating your light, you activate these places. And now I say I didn't really know all about that, but I was just taken from one place to another, to another, to another. And the beauty also is I was not interested in extraterrestrial life because it wasn't in my awareness yet until these places and the consciousnesses who are there started showing them to me, right? So one day also, that's actually quite funny. I had some good friends here and they said, let's go to Muyil. And Muyil is a place at about 30 kilometers from here. Muyil is a very beautiful ancient site, and with a very beautiful temple. And so my friend said, let's just do a little ceremony. I was like, oh yeah, ceremony, just like what I know. Because as I say, I've always been very innocent around everything, and things just come to me. And then I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I integrate it, and then I get confirmation. So anyway, my friends and I, we go there and we stop at a certain place. And my friend says, okay, I have some ayahuasca. Somebody wants some ayahuasca. I'm like, not me, right? They just all took their ayahuasca. And I've had that since I was a child. I never drank alcohol, never smoked, never done drugs. I'm like the perfect girl, right? But then kind of not, you know? But when I went out with friends, I was always the one who acted drunk because I have that thing. And I'm like, you guys drink and I get drunk. And then I found out that that is called contact high, right? So it's a thing when like for instance in human design, I'm a reflector. That means that I just take on everything, and that then I just I just take on things of other people, of other places, of other energies. So anyway, I was there with my friends. They all took a little bit of ayahuasca, but I got into a state of trance. So there I was with my drum, and then I went on the top of the temple of the pyramid, and then I saw all these beings, all these souls trapped in a lower dimension. Like we know that the Mayans had the capacity to transcend from the third to the fifth dimension. Suddenly there were no Mayans anymore. It's the same with the Aztecs. When you look at Teotihuacan, Teotihuacan has the road of the dead. It's called. You have the temple of the moon, and you have the temple of the sun. And so when they walked there, they just suddenly disappeared. Now, what happens? They don't disappear. They just had their Merkaba light body so trained that they could just go in out of form. They could morph into a certain form and into in other forms. Now, for instance, there's so many shamanic traditions in the area here in Mexico that the shamans, and I have studied with so many of them, and I'm really very blessed because I've been able to study the science of the body, like really through the medicine, the science of the body, through chiropractic and all that, the science of the body, and then through the shamanic practices that I've had with Aztec elders, with Incan elders, with Tibetan elders, with Mayan elders. I mean, people say the Mayans are dead. There are no Mayans anymore. That is not true. There is a third dimensional race of Mayans that doesn't have the spiritual, intellectual preparation at this time in our existence, so to say. But there are a few of them, and they're hidden, who still have all the knowledge, all the wisdom. And the other ones, they just transcended into another dimension. I remember also, like when I was also catapulted to Egypt. That's another story that was very interesting too. But when I got into Egypt, and also in Greece, when I got to Egypt and to Greece and to the Mayan lands here, I really arrived always and saying, what the fuck happened here? Like, whoa, wait a minute. No. We have a city of light. We have high level teachings happening here and there and there. What happened? It's just that we fell down in consciousness. So what do I want to say with that is that all these places, like Egypt, like Greece, like Israel, like the Mayan lands, like the Aztec lands, like Peru, the Inca, all these places, they do exist in their glory, in their majestuous glory in higher realms. So it's not that they're gone, it's that they're there, but yet we, with the frequency bandwidth of our senses, and mostly of our eyes, we can't see it. But little by little, we start seeing things. First, we start feeling it. And that is why, I mean, I feel so blessed that I've been able to do so much somatic work on myself and teach it to others to be able to become very sensitive, to be able to be highly sensitive with our senses. Okay. So what happens? We start feeling things and like, okay, I can't really place it, but I feel it. So that is that higher vibrational frequency. And certainly when you go to temples and pyramids, because they carry codes, they carry creation codes. Yeah. So through their sacred geometry, through their purpose for what they were built, through the hands, quote, hands of who built them, right? Because everything really is a hologram. Eventually, everything is a hologram. So people can spend ages on who built these pyramids and the slaves and this and that and that. And it's not about that. It's a holographic reflection. And when we look at that, when we think about the laws, the 7 laws of Hermes Trismegistus, the Hermetic laws, we have there that he says, as above, so below. So I always say that here on Earth, we are living a watered down version of the higher reality. And the more that we come close to that higher reality, and the more that we speak it, the more it comes into existence. Because we are changing our frequency bands of our senses. So, as I said before, I'm a doctor in veterinary medicine, and I'm specialized also in neurology. Everything that has to do with the spine, with the brain, and all that. And that's absolutely amazing because the ascension process is all about the body. The process of enlightenment has really like nothing to do with the external, even though the external is showing us so much, but the external is the reflection of the internal, and the external teaches us what we need to know. So you can say to the universe, to the ship, to the Godhead, to the quantum field, whatever you want to call it, you can say, okay, what do I need to learn? How do I deal with this or that situation? Or how do I make this or that better? And then something comes up in our field, and then we can say, what is this doing here? Or we can say, wait a minute. So I send the information up to the central system, and then the information comes back from the central system. And that is how the nervous system works also. The nervous system has a sensory input, then it goes to the central nervous system, to the brain, and the brain regulates everything and gives an output. So the same is happening inside than outside. Yeah. And then when we are at certain places on the earth, we have these grid points where we can really step into the vortex of the energies, where we can really wind. It's like wine is spiraling up and winding up earth so that it can click in with the cosmic consciousness. So I've gone through a lot this life, and one thing that I've gone through is that, okay, so I'm just going to, there's so many things that I want to talk about. So anyway,
Sure.
I said, I had my bags. And also, if you want to know something else, or you just say, hey, let's go into one or another direction, just tell me.
Sure. No, I was going to ask you, what are the one of the favorite sites that you like the most? What was the most impactful temple that you've
So
been to? And
for me, the most impactful, first of all, was Tulum. That was the
Mhm.
first time that I arrived, and again, it was so guided by the higher realms that I arrived there, and there was a guy, and I was already, sneaking under the ropes and all that. So there was a guy who was the the guardian there and the lifesaver of the beach, and we started talking, and he took me everywhere all around the place. And then at night, he took me into the temple. So I have had the opportunity and the blessing really to have been inside of the temple of Tulum, the castle, for two times. And
Oh,
in the year 2016, when actually my water had already broken, I was pregnant and my
mm.
water already had broken, but there were no I didn't have any contractions. So I was as wild and adventurous to go to the pyramids in Tulum, to get on top of the pyramid with a belly like that
Wow.
and just do my meditation there, take some pictures, and then come back down. So for me, Tulum is absolutely amazing. And it really feels like my hometown. And
Mm.
I've been now here for 10 years. I'm 30 kilometers away from Tulum, and it still feels like my home. I try to leave, but it always pulls me back because it's that frequency that we vibrate on. And then obviously Tikal, Tikal in Guatemala is absolutely mind blowing. It is a very, very elegant. It's a very elegant site. It's a very feminine site. When you look at Teotihuacan, for instance, these are like boom, busting war spaceships that are there in the form. And then when you can look a little bit further, when you can bring your eyesight higher, you can really see that these are war spaceships that do their thing, you know?
Mm.
And so when you look at it with Tikal, Tikal is much more feminine, much softer. And then Muyil, for instance, where I said that I freed up a lot of these spirits that were stuck there, that's like the primary school of Tikal. So it's these places are more like an educational center
Mm.
where mostly priestesses are taught, and it's more temple style. Like we have the goddess Ichel here, and she's, yeah, goddesses, a different name, but a lot of same vibrations. Like Ichel is very similar to the goddess Isis, or to that frequency band of the goddess Isis. She has the same virtues, right? And so what I notice in Muyil and in Tikal, it's like Muyil is where they start off, and then Tikal is like where the summit is, where the initiation is of that goddess, of that feminine, of that way. And then when we look at Chichen Itza, for instance, Chichen Itza is much more aligned, stricter, analytical. That is
Mhm.
more like, for instance, Teotihuacan, because I mean, these places are quite well known. So that is more masculine. The energy there is stronger, is more masculine. So and then there are these little sites. For instance, what has been a site of major importance for me is Amatlan de Quetzalcoatl. That is the birthplace of the avatar Quetzalcoatl. So Quetzalcoatl was that avatar that then turned into the Venus star. So he enlightened himself. He kind of busted out of himself, right? And he was the same person as Kukulkan. So Quetzalcoatl means, Quetzal means precious bird or precious feathers, and Coatl, you see Coatl again, Nahuatl, Seattle, Coatl. So
Mhm.
Coatl means snake. So
Mhm.
he is the feathered serpent. And
Mhm.
then in Kukulkan, when we look at Kukulkan, so Kan, like for instance Cancun, right? That we have
Mhm.
here close by. Cancun is the nest of the snakes. Can is snake, right?
Mm.
And Kukul is one of the precious birds. So it's the same name, Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl, because it was the same personality, was the same avatar, who then actually, for me, what he did is he ascended. He ascended in the flesh, but then the flesh left. Know what I mean? So his consciousness was totally transferred to a higher dimension. And that is what we are doing right here and right now, also on this earth, but in a collective. So we've had Jesus that yesterday we celebrated, that ascension. He left his body. He had to leave the physical body, the most dense body behind, in order then to transcend and to come back in a lighter body, what is actually higher dimensions instead of third dimension physical body. And when we think about when people have, for instance, a revelation of an angel or of, I don't know, Maria or whoever, that is because they tap in that moment through the heart and through the senses, through the first eye. I call it the first eye. It's not the third eye, because the pineal gland really is the eye. These are just projectors. Yeah. So, and then when somebody gets into that frequency band, suddenly they can see beings from higher realms, even though they're not as much in this physical, dense physical form that we're playing in right now. Because each of us, we all have bodies, light bodies in other realms. We just need to become conscious of them. And so we have to close circles, we have to close realms, we have to close all the circles of every realm in order for us to be able to go to other realms. And when you tap into these places like Tikal, like Tulum, like Chichen Itza, like, and a very important one, Calakmul, like Calakmul, you receive, it's a physical direct transmission of higher realm frequencies. So it's like straight away receiving these God codes. And obviously, depending on how clear and clean your vessel is, body meaning vessel, how much God codes can come through, how much galactic consciousness can come through, and how much we can sense, we can hear, we can see, we can feel the higher realms. So Daniel has his spaceship hanging there on top of him. And that's absolutely amazing, because the more that we put these things in our field, the more our cybernetic system, instead of nervous system, I call it our cybernetic system, because it's actually a fiber optic system. When we look at how the nervous system really works, it's an electrical system. Okay, not going to go into deep neurology here, because that is not the point. But what the point is that the more that we stimulate to higher frequencies our nervous system, the more that we can tap into other things, and we can look at lower realms. We don't have to, but we can look at them, but they don't necessarily see or feel us. So even though there are a lot of people who can say, oh, they're crazy, they see spaceships, that's fine. I think they're crazy because they see wars. That's more crazy than seeing spaceships. So I'd rather be in my frequency, in my density, in my dimension, and make it happen. Because my word is law. What I say happens. And this is where we change from the human template, or from the earthly template, to a galactic template, or to a heavenly template. What I mean with that is that the matrix is a template. Okay, so the matrix is a computer system, right? The thing is, as it has been blocked and not in the correct frequency, not to go into conspiracy and all that, because we're not there anymore to go there. That is not where we are, because we're in the galactic template. But so, like I said before, we just come in here all our consciousness and memory of higher realms is totally erased. And so we are plugged into the earthly template that that ordains and that controls us in not a good sense. When once that we start closing all these circles, all these cycles, we can close cycles of our karmic, we can close karmic cycles through going through all the experiences. And then again, it's not necessary that every human being goes through every layer of the human experience in every virtue, because it would be a Muppet show. I mean, it is already a Muppet show. It would be like triple Muppet show, and it would be even worse Muppet show. So as long as a few of us know that, and we can close the cycles, we can go from 0 to 10 and close cycles, the more that we set ourselves free, and that way we set the whole world free. And so we don't need the 8 billion humans to be totally awake for us to be able to install like permanently the galactic template. And the galactic template means my word is law. I say what's going on. Is the oneness consciousness. It's like the on, you have their on symbol. See, you're on. Yeah, on air, right? And so these temples, these places, even all like the Notre Dame in Paris, and all these other temples who used to be temples and then they've been taken over by Catholic churches and all that. These are grid points, and we know that, and it's on grid lines. So the more that we can connect with these places, the more that our galactic consciousness becomes online, becomes activated. Since a few years now, as I've been working with the animals a lot, with the reproduction, and so I have been very much interested in everything that is genetics and DNA. And so I've been working with epigenetics now, with genetic engineering, and on a human level, through genetic engineering, through adapting the genes to a higher frequency, through bringing in certain genomes, and through really reestablishing the DNA and the 12 strands that we really want here on Earth in a few of the humans, we pull all the others up. And so going to these places, doing certain galactic activations that I've received from the ship, through doing that, when we elevate, we automatically, it's like a vacuum cleaner. We automatically pull the others in because we become a vacuum. We get rid of all our attachments. We get rid of all these memories who just take up data in our system. And the more that we can get that out, and the more that we can become that channel in that 0 point line, the more that we become that vacuum. We quantum jump. We jump timelines, we jump years and years and years and years, and so we can take the rest with us. And that is what we, the starseeds, do. And so connecting with these places, like I said, Tikal, I love Tulum, I love Teotihuacan. In Teotihuacan, I've been so many times to Teotihuacan, but I do want to tell you a story. So I really had the desire to be a mother, right? And then, but I didn't want to have a child of a human man, right? Because I had such a connection with Quetzalcoatl. So by magic and miracles, after doing a whole pilgrimage in the Mayan lands to all these sacred sites, I was scientifically infertile by the doctors. And the man that I had twice intercourse with was a vasectomized man. And there was my child. So a few weeks later, I was pregnant. And so because it was such a call for me, it was such a, I so wanted to be a mother, and I so demanded it. I literally demanded it, right? And my son then was called Tomas Topiltzin because of Quetzalcoatl, who is called Seacatl Topiltzin. And so I was there with I was there at Chichen Itza, 8 months pregnant. I was there in Chichen Itza with my child. Anyway, in Chichen Itza was a lot of times. Then I was in Teotihuacan with my child, who was 4 months old. And then, as we all do human sacrifice as galactics, and please call yourself galactics, Dustin and Daniel, because it's about time that we take on the role. We shouldn't be calling ourselves just humans anymore, because we are not. Okay? We do things in our lives that we are not. And I remember then I was pregnant, and I couldn't say that to that man because I received so much downloads. Don't say it. It's not his child. He has nothing to do with it, because it really was divine intervention. So even one day I was walking on the streets in Tulum alone with my big belly, and there was so many emotions that came up, like the human emotions. It was crazy. And I saw a couple, and she was pregnant. He was holding her, and I was, oh, I want that too. And straight away came through, don't compare yourself to humans. So that is the thing. If we have difficulties in our lives, don't compare yourself to humans who maybe have it easier, or maybe this, or who maybe that, because we are here to reestablish the correct template. And we go through such a big lessons, to such a big experiences, to such a big sacrifices in order to restore the template. When we get it and we can go through it through love, then it's restored. And that is what we're doing. So I have a lot of people who say, oh my God, so much has happened in your life, poor you. And then I say, I just chose to take all that on. And I remember then my child was born, and I wanted to have it or in the temple or in the sea or at home in my bathtub with roses and all that. And eventually I ended up, after 83 hours, I ended up in the hospital for a C-section. And so it was the worst of the worst. And I was sitting there at the side of my bed, and they took my child away, and they wanted the money. Didn't have the money because I didn't have insurance, because I don't really believe in insurance. Anyway, and then again, in Mexico, insurance or not, almost comes down to the same. So I was sitting there at the side of my bed, like my whole belly open, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I received the download, yes, you can. That's why we chose you to do this. So we can do this as star seeds, as galactics. We go through so much. And so when you go through something, instead of staying stuck there, almost be honored that you go through such a difficult thing, and then just say, okay, show me what I need to be shown to clear this situation, to get through it. And as I say, me going to temples, it just activates me just like that. And that's why I take a lot of people to temples. I have done it professionally, quote professionally. And I want to do it a little bit more, because I do notice it's so important for the humans to get into that frequency. And it's not only going there and looking, it's really going, activating your galactic consciousness inside of you, connecting with the pyramids, connecting with the temples, with the living information, the living consciousness that is in there. So Chichen Itza, I've been there many times. And like I say, I've been there with my child. And then as life does whatever it has to do, and as we have scripted our life also, my son, after 2.5 years, in a tragic but very quick accident, went back to source. Okay, so the 1st of June of 2019, he choked in a piece of fruit, and even though we had all the assistance of everybody, doctors and everything around me, he decided to leave, and so he did. And he was 2.5 years old. And then that night, I received from him, like, how the universe works. Okay. And then he told me, go with my stardust, because he wanted me to cremate him. And then I did so, and I even put his little body into the cremation oven. Biggest detachment that you can have in your life. And then again, we do that so we can set the humans free from that. Okay?
Let me interrupt you right here. Sorry. First of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. It's very tragic. I'm a father myself, father of 4. I can imagine that it's
yes,
really hurts. Man.
Thank you.
Very sorry.
I in the last 3 years, I have had 3 big losses. One is my son, and 2 other big losses of very important people in my life. And I know that I was guided to guide them to the higher realms so they could get out of the wheel of karma. So I do know that they're out of the wheel of karma. So even though it's the most heartbreaking pain that you can ever go through, my son, he went straight back to source. That's what he said. And the 2 other people, I've been able to guide them to the realm of immortality. They did leave their bodies. They did leave their physical 3D bodies. And I know that they're now in the realm of immortality. And I decided to not guide people anymore leaving their physical bodies, yet we are going to guide the humans to the realm of immortality through the ships that you have just hovering on your head. And that is a very important thing, because I have been given the task to be the head of the welcome committee of the ship Phoenix Rising. And like I say, it has nothing to do with trying to be important or anything like that, because it's not even nothing that I'm even earning money with, because I am still working as a doctor in veterinary medicine, teaching people how to work with the spine and the nervous system. And that actually makes it quite easy for me to talk about that, because whether people accept it or not, that's not my issue. I just say whatever I receive. So I have been given the task to be the head of the welcome committee of the Phoenix Rising. And the Phoenix Rising is a ship where humans can arrive. They're not totally yet in their total galactic consciousness, yet they are on a frequency. I call it the X frequency. And to get from the X to the Z, or like the omega, from the X to the omega, the alpha omega, there is a band where there is a rehabilitation going on. And rehab is actually already going on in certain source centers on Earth, because I'm sure that all of you, when you go somewhere, and it can be a yoga place, or it can be a spa, or it can be a meditation class, or it can be a lake, or it can be a pyramid. When you go to these places, I'm sure that all of you have felt the energy that is higher. And when I take people to these places and I really tap into myself, I'm like, let's beam it out here. People are like, oh my God, what is this? What's going on? Like the other day too, I gave a hand to a girl after a meditation in a sacred space that we have. And she got a little bit dizzy. She was like, oh my God, I got dizzy. And then I took her hand a little bit different, and her finger just pushed here, and she got an electrical shock. She's like, did you feel that? And obviously I know that it's this because of me, because of the energy that I beam out, because I do it in a conscious way. It's galactic consciousness that we beam through our bodies, and that humans then get that spark. Like, whoa, what was that? Oh, and then they feel different. And even for other realms, you can make yourself invisible. So keeping on talking about what temples I like. You know, I stay on my track, but I go on and off. That's just what life does, right? So we have Tikal, we have Tulum, we have Chichen Itza. And so in Chichen Itza, I had the permission to go in when there was a zenith. So the zenith is the time of the year when here at this level of how do you call these bands? The bands on Earth, we're at a 20 degree latitude here, the latitude. So we're at 20 degrees latitude here. And so when the zenith comes is when there is a moment that there is no shadow. So it's straight solar information coming straight, totally vertical. And I had the honor to leave Stardust of my son in the year 2019 there. So that was very beautiful, because I'm always guided to do these things. I just follow my gut. And if people ask me, why do you do that? And I say, just because life wants me to. Okay. It's not that I'm going to do silly things. Everything is obviously thought of, but I'm always guided, and I follow that guidance. And then, for instance, talking about Teotihuacan, that is such an important place, there is a temple of Quetzalcoatl there, and it has a 100-meter long underground tunnel to get there to the center of the temple. And I was also there at the zenith, so I was able to go through that tunnel, and the tunnel is filled. The whole walls of the tunnel is filled with a certain it's a certain mineral, or that's not even around here in Mexico. It's much more further north, and the whole inside
Mica.
of the tunnel is covered. Huh?
It's mica, I think it's called.
Yes, I
mica?
think so too. So, and we went through that, and you can't touch it because it's very toxic. But then when it's night, it just lights up like it would be the universe that lights up. And it was so beautiful because we couldn't take anything like with us there, nothing. But what I did, I had a white dress on, and I had some of the stardust of my son, and I just put that in there. Like I made a knot on my dress, and I put that in there. So don't tell anybody. Everybody who sees this, don't tell anybody. So we went under there, and at the moment of the zenith, there, when there was a top of the temple, had the straight line to the underworld of the temple, I was able to leave the stardust there of my son. So many people can say, "Oh yeah, that's just coincidence," and I say, yes, in the correct word, in the correct meaning of the word, coinciding. It is coincidence, because it is true that I coincided in time and in space there in order to, at a quantum level, do some changes, huge changes, right? And then another very important temple is the one of Calakmul. And that's a very beautiful story. Calakmul is like 6 hours away driving from Tulum. And in the year 2013, I was writing my book, and I was doing that together with a friend of mine. He is from Lion descendant. He is absolutely amazing. And he actually looks even like a lion. He has a long black tail, ponytail. And he helped me writing my book. And one day he sends me a link. And it was a link of a few pictures of some stones that they have found somewhere. And I saw these pictures coming up, and I put my hand on there, and I literally received galactic energy through my hand, through the screen. I literally like almost fell over on my chair. I was laughing, I was crying. There was so much. It was a galactic orgasm that I was having, and I had no clue what was going on. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And afterwards, I was like, whoa, what was that? So I looked at the pictures, and it was from stones that they had found in Calakmul. And it had all these spaceships, these UFOs on there, and these stars and all that. And so, again, that is information that comes from the higher realms, I call it from ourselves. It really is our higher selves, because we are travelers through time and space. And we must start knowing that from ourselves. And we are here at this moment for a huge mission, and that is to take the humans up. So these temples are like the most important temples for me. And yeah, I love taking people to them, because people just jump so many timelines by doing that work. It's not that easy, because it's a lot of energy. So one really has to be already at a certain level of consciousness and vibration to really get it, and to really be able to go through it. But it really is like a switch that is turned on. You can really turn that switch on. Yeah. And that is why I'm here. And like I said, regarding the ships, and regarding that we're going to take the humans there, I'm actually recruiting, because that is also what they've said to me. You must recruit, okay? And so everybody who's listening here, I really want everybody to know that every information, for as futuristic it might seem, for as crazy it might seem, for as I don't know, unicorns and dragons and whatever it might seem. I don't receive unicorns and dragons. I have my own horse here, and he's kind of a unicorn. So, just saying, for whatever you receive, take it on as the truth, because when you can perceive it in your mind, when you can perceive it in your little screen that is here, then suddenly you will perceive it in your phone screen, you'll perceive it in your computer screen, you'll perceive it in the cinema screen, and you'll perceive it on your big screen. That's the way it works, okay? That is the manifestation process. It's not about, oh, I have to say 100 times, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. It's not about that. It's about seeing it in your first eye first and saying yes to it. Every time that you say yes to it. And so what we are doing here is saying yes to the frequency band of the reality where we can take humans on the ship. And so the more that you receive it here and you really live it and you believe it, the more it will come up in your field. Because, for instance, just a little example here that I want to give. I just said to Daniel that I have my spaceship too. And that I said that everything here is a watered down version of what is going on in the other realms. The other realms just have more life force. The other realms have more source energy. The other ones have more quantum consciousness coming through. So it's more alive, it's more complex. And it's all about our nervous system that sees more. I was once in a neurology course in South Dakota that was with a teacher who was a high-level neurologist. And he also was a Zen master. And that was amazing because it brought these two things together. It brought, again, the spirituality together with the somatics. And so he said, the quality of the evaluation of the nervous system of your patient depends on the quality of your own nervous system. So the more that our nervous system or consciousness is heightened, the more that we can see in others what is going on. Could be at a client level, but it can be also on a spaceship level. So the more that we vibrate with higher frequencies, the more that we see it. And so a few months ago, I was taken to the ship in a meditation, and they showed me a vehicle, and it was pure gold. And I was never really gold-like. I never really liked gold. But it's coming more and more. And so there was that golden ship and black inside. And they said, this is your vehicle. I'm like, okay. And so a few weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, I was going to sell my other car and I was going to buy a car, whatever car. I go into Facebook Marketplace and what shows up? A golden
car.
Porsche Macan. And my ex-boyfriend has always been saying that I should buy Porsche Macan. I always said, no, that's too much for me. No, I don't need that. And then it showed up in the field. And they have said to me before, they said, it's a frequency, whether you like it or not. And that is how the guides from the ship talk to us. They're very straightforward. They're very sharp. They said, whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. It's the frequency that you have to embody. And so I was on Marketplace. A golden Porsche Macan comes up with black interior. I'm like, holy shit. I was thinking of buying me this cheap car, and now you come up with that. It was listed 5 hours before, and the owner was a guy called Caesar, right? And so you have to tap into all these little details to play the game of life, to construct the galactic template, instead of being played by the earthly template. And it's sometimes difficult. It took me 6 weeks, and it took me Caesar driving to my home, dropping off the car, taking the other car with him, saying, okay, because that was one of my excuses. My car isn't sold. I wasn't trying to get it sold. My car isn't sold. The bank doesn't give me the rest of the money yet, because there was a little extra to be paid. And he just dropped it. He said, I'm taking your car. Just have that car. And then he took it and he said, whenever you have the rest of the money, you give it to me. So that is how much, when you really have to do something, you must do it. So see the signs. And then I baptized it as Spaceship, the Golden Phoenix. And I take people in it. I take people in my car, and I really act like they're getting in the spaceship and saying it. Welcome to the Phoenix Rising. Welcome to the spaceship. Welcome to the team. When you speak it, you put it into existence.
Manifestation.
And okay, we're not, yes, that's right. We're not everybody is on a level that they can believe that they can manifest in a 3D a golden spaceship, because the golden spaceship is in another dimension there, and we're just moving into that. We're spiraling into that. So there's so much to say, and
Yeah.
I don't know how long we have the time, because we're here an hour and I'm just
No, it's all right. You had
here.
no, it's all right. No, you have quite the story and knowledge of a lot of things. You have quite the background and the credentials. No, that's really cool. Yeah, we might have to wrap it up here because we have another podcast.
Sure.
Yeah, you stay with us for 2 more minutes.
But Dustin, wait, Dustin.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know we're late, but almost
Oh,
at
that's
the
fine.
end. But I have one more question, and maybe you
Sure,
can
go for
share it into a minute or so. I'm really interested in what your interpretation of consciousness is. Your interpretation.
Okay, good. So for me, my interpretation of consciousness is that there is a Godhead, there is the God consciousness source, and that is all consciousness. And from source, we go down into essence. And from essence, we go down into soul families. And that has been shown to me by when my son had passed that same night. And then we all can go into, it's like a tube, but actually it is a reflection of our higher conscious, of our soul consciousness, that comes down to a lower, or a conscious, a lower. Okay, so consciousness is consciousness. The further we go from the Godhead or from source, the further we go in time and space, and the further we go into consciousness. So the closer that we come back to home, quote source, quote the kingdom of God, quote quantum computer, the closer we come again up to in the ladder. You know, the ladder, the 33 steps of the ladder of Jacob in the Bible is the 33 ladders of our spine. There are 33 vertebrae to get to the head, to get to the superior nervous system, where left and right hemisphere are now divided because of the meninges here. They are physically and functionally divided. Yet when it opens up, when the floodgates open, you have a 20/20 vision, you have a 360 vision, and then you're out of duality. So consciousness for me is the quantum information. The more that your vessel and the more that your nervous system / fiber optic system can receive information, and the more that from our hemispheres we can use more percentage of our lobes, the more that beams in, the more that we become God consciousness. So the less complex the nervous system, it receives the life force, the God consciousness anyway, it is in life, but it is much less complex, like a 2-cellular being, or an insect, or a stone. They all have the God source, the consciousness, yet on a much less quantity and much less complex. So the closer we come, and the more that we can work on our nervous system, the closer we become to the head of the pyramid to click in. You know, the quantum field really is the field between our brain, that is actually the physical manifestation of our receptor of the consciousness, and the Godhead. So the Godhead is a triangle on top, if we look at pyramids. And the physical body is that part. So the closer that comes, the more consciousness gets in the vessel, and the more divine the human being becomes, more galactic the human being becomes. Therefore, we have to clear out everything in our system, in our RAM system, that doesn't serve us. That is my view.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And thank you for talking to us today. We will
My
have to
pleasure.
repeat it because I want to get a little bit deeper into certain topics that you talked about
Sure.
today.
Yes,
And
my pleasure.
yeah,
I'm actually at the moment working on, and that's been coming through also from above, on a new university. So now I have that academy with postgraduates, but I'm going to start a university. It's called Source University. It's teachings from source. We're working on that. So it will take humans through their awakening process and program. And then these humans can then learn how to guide other humans through their awakening process. And all that will be partially on Earth in the source centers and partially in the ships, in the rehab source centers on the ship.
That is
So
awesome.
we're really working. I've been saying that for so many years now, that I live in since actually 2012, I live in many realms at the same moment. Since I got into Lumen, so many realms like came together. I've been saying that now for more than 10 years, and it is true. And it's amazing.
That's awesome.
definitely.
Great.
Thank you. And stay with us for 2 more minutes, please.